Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. And this is Coach Ro from RocioFlores.com, and I'm doing my daily life Bible reading. I skipped it yesterday because my voice was acting up a lot and I wasn't feeling good. So today I'm just going to continue from where we were instead of trying to catch up today. And then I'll just add an extra day on Saturday. Hello. So excuse me if I don't sound all that awesome. Not that I've been trying to sound awesome while reading it, but if it sounds worse today, it's just because I'm sick. So I would also appreciate prayer so it goes away already for good, because I'm tired of it. Okay, so today we're doing chapters 30 and 31. They're both kind of long, but it's all kind of like one continuous thought process, so I didn't want to break it down. I'm just gonna read it, and then maybe we could talk about what it could mean, or what we're thinking about it as we maybe after the fact. Let me just get through it, and then we'll see. Make sure I got my water, because we'll see what happens. All right, 30. Remember we said it's gonna start with but now. But now they mock me, men younger than I am, whose fathers I would have refused to put with my sheepdogs. What use to me was the strength of their hands? Their vigor had left them. Emaciated from poverty and hunger, they gnawed the dry land, the desolate wasteland by night. They plucked mallow among the shrubs, and the roots of the broom tree were their food. They were expelled from human society. People shouted at them as if they were thieves. They are living on the slopes of the Wadi. Among the rocks and in holes on the ground, the bray among the shrubs, they huddle beneath the thistles. Foolish men, without even a name, they were forced to leave the land. So, assuming he's referring to men who were people who are out of the, not within society. He's saying even they are talking about me. So, it's kind of harsh language because we don't really talk about people that way in our world. We don't associate a person's, unless it's prison, we don't typically associate people with if you're in a bad position, it means you're a bad person. Unless it's prison. Which, by the way, we'll get to that later on. It'll be in the next book we read, I believe. Where they actually talk about the rules and stuff like that. And so people who end up going to kind of a prison, they get kind of leave town, they get put somewhere else. And that's kind of what today's world is, when we think about how we punish people or set them aside if they've done horrible things. It's slightly different in how they do it, but I guess that's almost if you tell someone today, be like, man, I am so downtrodden that even people in prison are talking about me. But it's different because we don't think about those things the same way. Okay, I'll keep going. Now I am mocked by their songs. I have become an object of scorn to them. They despise me and keep their distance from me. They do not hesitate to spit in my face, because God has loosened my bowstring and oppressed me. They have cast off restraint in my presence. The rabble rise up at night at my right. Let me reread that. The rabble rise up at my right. They trap my feet. I don't know what that means. Okay, but it has a little note. It says obscure. So it means, I'm not sure if they know exactly what it means. Yeah, that's a weird, I don't know what that means. They trap my feet and construct their siege ramp against me. They tear up my path. They contribute to my destruction without anyone to help them. They advance as through a gaping breach. They keep rolling in through the ruins. Terrors are turned loose against me. They chase my dignity away like the wind, and my prosperity has passed by like a cloud. Okay, so they're adding to his bad times. Okay, now my life out. Sorry, guys. I have a cough drop in my mouth. It's really hard to talk with it in there, but I know I won't be able to talk without it. So, okay. Now my life is poured out before my eyes, and days of suffering have seized me. Night pierces my bones, but my gnawing pains never rest. My clothing is distorted with great force. He chokes me back by the neck of my garment. He throws me in the mud, and I have become like dust and ashes. I cry out to you for help, but you do not answer me. And that's God. When I stand up, you merely look at me. You have turned against me with cruelty. You harass me with your strong hand. You lift me up on the wind and make me ride it. You scatter me in the storm. Yes, I know that you will lead me to death, the place appointed for all who live. Yet no one would stretch out his hand against the ruined man when he cries out to him for help because of his distress. Have I not wept for those who have fallen on hard times? Has my soul not grieved for the needy? But when I hoped for good, evil came. When I looked for light, darkness came. I am churning within and cannot rest. Days of suffering confront me. I walked about blackened, not by the sun. I stood in the assembly and cried out for help. I have become a brother to jackals and a companion to ostriches. My skin blackens and flakes off, and my bones burn with fever. My lyre is used for mourning, and my flute sound for weeping. So he's sad. It's not funny, but he doesn't feel like, he feels like God turned around against him. He feels like everybody's turned against him. He feels like things just get worse. But he keeps on saying, like, have I not done the right thing? Like, sorry about that. Like, have I not grieved? Have I not fought for those people who needed, people to fight for them? How come people aren't fighting for me? Which I think is a feeling that a lot of people could feel. Especially if you're somebody who, like, was always there for everyone else, and then suddenly when you need help, it felt like nobody was there. Or like people thought you deserved it, and then that made it harder. Hello. To feel those feelings of like, oh my God, how could they think this about me? And so that's how he's feeling right now. Okay, I have to drink some more water before I can continue. I also figured out how to get the little sun on my, as a filter. So I'm trying my best to have that sun all the time, just because I think it looks happy. It looks a little warm. Makes you think like maybe it's sunny outside even though there's snow out there. How's the weather where you're at? We got weird weather from like 70 degrees on the weekend to suddenly 20 degrees. It's Colorado. That's how it is. But it's always a shock for some reason. I'm always like, oh, I did not expect that. Okay. I will continue. 31. I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then can I look at a young woman? For what portion would I have from a God above? Or what inheritance for the Almighty on high? Doesn't disaster come to the unjust and misfortune to evildoers? Does he not see my ways and number all my steps? He's going back to that idea of like, doesn't good happen to good, bad happen to bad? He keeps going back and forth, and I'm confused as to whether or not that's how his belief system is, or is he just asking that based on what his friends have taught him? But either way, it sounds like he's like, I've been good, so don't I deserve good? Okay, if I have walked in falsehood, or my foot has rushed to deceit, let God weigh me in accurate scales, and he will recognize my integrity. So I put a note on the side that's like, he's asking for fairness, which makes sense, because he doesn't think he did anything wrong, and we know on the other side that he hasn't. But his friends don't see that. His friends are still very much thinking like, you probably did something to deserve it, just admit it. Okay, if my step has turned from the way, my heart has followed my eyes, or impurity has stained my hands, let someone else eat what I have sown, and let my crops be uprooted. If my heart has been seduced by my neighbor's wife, or I have lurked at his door, or let my own wife grind for another man, grind grain for another man, that could have been bad. Or let other men sleep with her. It's okay. It went there anyways. For that would be a disgrace. It would be a crime deserving punishment. For it is fire that consumes down to Abaddon. It would destroy my entire harvest. I think that makes pretty much sense, that he's just saying, have I done all these bad things? If so, it would make a lot of sense for what's happening to me. But he's like, I haven't done that. So, if I have dismissed the case of my male or female servants when they made a complaint against me, what could I do when God stands up to judge? How should I answer him when he calls me to account? Did not the one who made me in the womb also make them? Did not the same God form us both in the womb? So, everyone knows on the side is that if he deserves it, he will take the punishment. It sounds like he's like saying like, he knows that had he really done it, that he couldn't say anything about it, right? Like, God would have to judge that and have to act accordingly. But he's still asserting that he hasn't done it. If I have refused the wishes of the poor, let the widow's eyes go blind. If I have eaten my few crumbs alone without letting the fatherless eat any of it. For from my youth I raised him as the father And since the day I was born, I guided the widow. If I have seen anyone dying for lack of clothing, or a needy person without a cloak, or if he did not bless me while warming himself with the fleece for my sheep, if I ever cast my vote against a fatherless child, when I saw that I had support in the city gate, then let my shoulder blade fall from my back, and my arm be pulled from its socket. For disaster from God terrifies me, and because of his majesty I could not do these things. So he's doing a whole other list of like things that are not considered good and that you shouldn't do. I think this part's kind of interesting just because a lot of these things are not things that we typically talk about when talking about the Bible or Christian beliefs. Like he's talking about the poor and the people who are blind, people who are fatherless, and people who are struggling because they're dying because of lack of clothing, or they need this or they need that. And I like how it says, if I ever cast my vote against a fatherless child, then he's saying I deserve had I done these things. But this is kind of like a nice little guide of like things that he sees as being good and bad. I guess my question would be, does God also agree with these things as being descriptors of things that are good? Because I know there's a lot of back and forth, so I would like to know that myself. If I place my confidence in gold, or called fine gold my trust, if I have rejoiced because my wealth is great, or because my own hand has acquired so much, if I have gazed at the sun when it was shining, or at the moon moving in splendor, so that my heart was secretly enticed and I threw them a kiss, this should also be a crime deserving punishment, for I would have denied God above. That's interesting, because he's like equating loving his wealth with having another God, which is, I think, something that's generally understood. I think that you're not supposed to have any idols, and those idols can include other things that are not necessarily other gods, right? But like, we just love money so much that that's where we put our trust. Then we're not only not having other gods, we're not having our God be the place of trust. That makes sense. Okay. Have I rejoiced over my enemy's distress, or become excited when trouble came his way? I have not allowed my mouth to sin by asking for his life with a curse, having the members of my household said, who is there who has not had enough to eat at Job's table? Job, not Job. No stranger had to spend the night on the street, for I opened my door to the traveler. Have I covered my transgressions as others do, by hiding my guilt in my heart? Because I greatly feared the crowds, and the contempt of the clans terrified me, so I grew silent and would not go outside. Ooh, that's interesting. Talking about how, like, not sharing those issues, and because being afraid of, like, what people think. That's interesting. Or, like, okay. Right. If only I had someone to hear my case. It was a exclamation point, not an I. It says, if only I had someone to hear my case, exclamation point. There's not a lot of exclamation points here, so it's kind of threw me off. Okay, here's my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Let my opponent compose me. His indictment, I will surely carry it on my shoulder and wear it like a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. I would approach him like a prince. If my land cries out against me and its furrows join in weeping, if I have consumed its produce without payment, or shown contempt for its tenants, then let thorns grow instead of wheat, and stinkweed instead of barley. The words of Job are concluded. So we're done with the speeches. But we have another speech by somebody else. We'll do that tomorrow. The guy's name is Elihu. I'm not sure how to say his name. But he's basically another friend who's going to come and now talk. So, but these arguments that we had over here are now done. And it was a lot of back and forth. And I think a lot of parts were a little confusing to know, like, okay, so what are you asserting? What's the point of this section? I think the overall point is, Job's like, I haven't done anything. His friends are like, you must have, because bad things are happening to you. And he's like, well, then let God come and show me that. Like, come. I want God to be the one that declares this, not you. And lots of that. So, yeah. That's all for today. I'm going to go because I can't. Yeah. I need to, like, cough. So, Thank you guys so much for watching on here, and I will be posting this to my YouTube at bit.ly/Rose Daily Life Bible Reading and bit.ly/Rose YouTube. Either of those links will take you straight there. It's also in my highlights. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.